The Coaching Hour with Boitumelo on Zoe Live Radio. www.zoeliveradio.co.za.
Good evening. It's a Tuesday night. It's our date night. It's a coaching hour with Boitumelo. In this show, we build people that transform societies. Every week, we bring to you coaches, experts, subject matter experts from all different spheres of life. Be it business, be it social, be it economics, be it medical. We bring you the best coaches, and all you have to do is stay tuned. Do not touch that dial. Invite your friends, remind your family, remind your friends that it's the coaching hour, and we're going to be taking notes. Bring your pen, bring your paper. I have a coach with me. I have a wonderful person with me. I am very excited to introduce Dr. Sam Zungu Fidelis. Dr. Sam, welcome. Can we call you Dr. Sam?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. Dr. Sam, welcome. Welcome to the Zoe Live Radio. It's a Christian radio station. I do the coaching hour with Boitumelo. Well, that's the title of the show. I do coaching, and I love bringing people to the show. I just love bringing people like you, people who are, have a story to tell. And as we were talking during the week, I could not help, but I was just surprised, and I got very excited, as we were talking during the weekend. I cannot wait to share you with our listeners. Please introduce yourself. Who is Dr. Sam at home, socially, and any other platforms that you have?
Hi, everyone. Hi to all our listeners. Thank you for having me, Boitumelo. It's such an honor to be part of the coaching hour. Well, I'm Dr. Sam. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a community member. I'm a doctor. I'm a medical practitioner. I think, I'm a woman in simplest forms. And I think at the heart of everything I'm doing is just to serve God's people and to serve communities and ensure that their health is their number one priority.
Absolutely. I didn't hear much about your social. What do you do? Where are you in the social? What are you doing in the social?
Oh, well, the social life is, I don't do much in the social life, but you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I think part of social activities that I do is really just form part of support groups. I do little of sporting lately because I'm a mother to a toddler. So that's my social life. So any gatherings with children and parents, that's where you'll find me currently.
I know about that. I've been doing this for 8 years now. My little guy is 8 years old, Koki, and I just love being a parent. You said you were a medical doctor, and you mentioned so many other things. Can we just break it down? We just want to get to know you, up and personal, if you don't mind.
Well, how personal is personal?
Tell us about your profession for now.
Okay, so professionally, I graduated from the University of Cape Town. I came to Joburg, and I worked at a public hospital in the East Rand, which was Pulusong. And after having worked, I think a couple of years there, 4 years or 5 years, I went into private practice. Not my own private practice, but in private practice hospitals. As I navigated private practice, this is where I got exposed to psychiatric illnesses, neurological illnesses. So most of the chronic illnesses that leave people disabled or without form of action. So, and then I started up my own practice. Initially, I focused on pediatrics. And I think as I grew in the field, my heart moved on to more of the adult life, where now I was focusing on chronic illnesses, whether it was diabetes, it was hypertension, it was even stroke conditions. And as I did that, I think I faced a lot of medical negligence that I saw our peers were doing, or either my patients had gone through with other medical professionals. From there, I opened my own practice, which now focused on medical negligence and medical malpractice, where I work with attorneys and a panel of other doctors, where we focus on one issue at a time, see what's been done, and make sure that this patient is compensated and there's better health care within our public sector or private sector. Am I doing well for now?
Very good, I must say. Very good, I must say. Oh, my goodness. I like to say on the show that, coaching, mentoring, I think those things, those two are actually a gift and a calling at the same time.
Oh.
And I find that people that we talk to on this show, they're doing what they're doing to uplift somebody else's life, to help somebody else's life and for people to progress, for people to find justice in other cases. So I hear we're talking justice today for patients. I hear we will be gravitating towards that, and I'm quite excited. And I'm quite excited to hear about your journey, how you've actually moved from from
one place to the other.
Well, places as well, but in terms of your patients, you've almost done a good development of a human being, starting with the kids, coming up to the grown-ups, getting to know a human being. I am quite excited to know because human beings are ever evolving. And I would like to know, what have you learned so far? And I'm sure we're going to break it down as we speak about, your profession and what have you done. And I hear you talking about medical negligence in other cases. And I know that we will actually be focusing on medical negligence today. If there's anything else that I've left out in terms of your intro, anything you would like to share with us? You said you do some sports. Are you reading anything? Are you into clubs?
I'm reading a lot.
Please share with us.
So I'm currently reading multiple books. Yeah, I know that's a lot. So part of it is spiritual books, part of it is just business, and other it's just about health. But the current focus that I was reading just yesterday is By Design We Are Healthy, written by a lady called Ntabi Singh, I've forgotten her name, where she gets into her story, how she suffered a chronic illness. And in the midst of navigating our healthcare system, she also wanted something beyond. She wanted God to answer her. And as she journeyed through this, she was questioning the medical healthcare system. She's not a doctor or anything, but she was also questioning God. With God, what is your purpose? I cannot be suffering like this. So it's a great story of linking everything together and how she journeyed. And what I like about it is that part of the medical healthcare journey or healthcare system is well documented, but we never really document personal experiences of patients or people. People get healed in so many other different ways that we can just see in our hospital, that when that's not documented, science would say there's no evidence. But when people come out with their stories like this, we have evidence that we can always go back to and say, this person walked through this journey this way and they were fine. I think that really, that one gives me goosebumps. And another one is Winning is a Habit, by a local guy. He's a doctor, he's a physician. So he's saying that we as human beings need to get into habits that will keep us winning, whether you are facing obstacles, whether today is not a good day, but your habits need to always represent that you're a winner. And yeah, I think I also like that one, amongst others. Others, it's women, others are other spheres, but those ones are keeping me on my toes currently, because it says in this world that we're living in, we only know a fraction of what is really going on.
I'm glad that your selection is also proudly South African. I'm for South African products. I'm for South African authors as well. I'm quite excited to hear these two titles. I'm actually going to find them and see if I can get hold of one of them and start reading. It's good to read, to empower ourselves and to open our own perspective in terms of life, because life is not predictable at all. But by design, we can lead a good life. And a better life that is inclusive and, where you have knowledge of what is happening around you, the communities that you don't necessarily live in, but, you could find yourself, at a certain space. Let's talk medical negligence now.
Yes.
And maybe a minute before that, I want to know, I called you coach. I hope I'm not swearing. I want to know, for you, the love of coaching, the love of helping people, the love of working with people, where did it start?
Oh, good question. I think it started way back in varsity, and it just got more prominent in my professional career. I'll just be blunt about it. Certain types of environments we find ourselves in as women, as people of color, we always find ourselves overwhelmed, and we never really have proactive mentors or think proactively about having a mentor. Well, I didn't. That's my story. And certain types of environment really are designed for people who have a foresight rather than just existing in the present. And most of my life really was, I have to do this, I need to get this, but there was never really proactive, because I don't even think the parents I had thought those things would exist, or I needed that. If you're a child and you're already passing at school, your parents thinking you're fine, there's nothing else you need. So as I navigated in varsity and I saw so many things that I was never really exposed to, whether academically, whether socially, I realized I need a person who's going to be helping me through this, but I could never find. Even when I started as an intern in a hospital, there were really never supervisors. You were really just doing what you knew from varsity and you went through. Some of our public health facilities really don't have a supervisor until it's like a CEO at the top or a medical superintendent who's running the whole hospital. So after feeling that overwhelmed, I started a forum that's called Health Wealth Forum, where I said I'll team up with other professionals, whether nurses, whether doctors from different walks who are before me, whether at my level, we will try and engage on matters that are affecting us. And I think that's where more and more the what do I call it, the drive and the love to mentor came about, because I was that person that needed someone. Now I can be that person that someone can look up to and say, this is how you navigate. Or even if you don't navigate like this, you'll find your own feet. It's okay. Be confident in what you already know and navigate your journey, navigate your path. Oh my goodness, am I talking too much? So it came about there, and as I journey, that's where I think I discover more and more we all need mentors at all levels, and we all need to create systems that are going to make us winners and successors in what we are doing.
Absolutely. I was listening to Sarah Jakes. I forgot her other surname, sorry. Roberts, yes. I was listening to Sarah Jakes Roberts yesterday in the morning. And she was just saying exactly what you are saying, the fact that we need to when God helps us and carries us through certain experiences, certain pain, certain events in our lives, He's not doing it for us to win and sit down, but He's doing it to prepare you so that you are able to help the next person through the experiences that you went through, so that they will also avoid what you had gone through. Yeah. And in actual fact, you are actually meant to be somebody else's assistance. So we were talking about being a sister's keeper, your brother's keeper, being there for one another, because human beings, we learn from experience. We learn from different experiences, and we become holistic people because I've learned from your experience. You've learned from my experience. Auntie told a story. Granny told a story. That's who we are. That's what human beings were meant to be. So I'm quite happy that you are the person that would start something out of that experience, and the fact that you started Health Work Forum, it's quite exciting. And at some point we will have to unpack this Health Work Forum, so that for everyone to understand what it meant, and what you were trying to do, and what did you achieve with it. Yeah. Do you mind sharing just a little bit of your experiences there? How has it gone so far? Is it still in existence?
Yes, it's still in existence. So the initial plan, when you have a vision about something, sometimes you just have the few steps that you are having now, or sometimes you have the foresight of everything. But then when it started, it was just me to say, we're going to have sessions as medical professionals. And we invite people from business and technology just to give us a four-way. Medicine and business or commercial think totally different to one another. And I believe that in our healthcare system, we always respond when there's a crisis, like how now we're responding because there's a pandemic, but we never think before that happens. So when I saw that at that time, that's mostly our nature in the healthcare profession, I said, let us partner or have people that mentor us from other professions who are always thinking ahead of time. IT system is always thinking, if this happens, what are we going to do? So just to start conversations. And we had events. And through those events, we really saw that we are a profession that is so lagging behind. But we are the heart of community, the heart of the healthcare system. So as we did that as well, I realized that I needed to have a structured mentorship program. So in the mentorship program, we guide these medical professions through their public health system journey. So that's to say, now you are working in orthopedics, you've never been here, it's a rural setting. What do you need to know? What are the basics you need to know? And we also mentorship programs for professionals now who are moving into their own private practice space. Now, doctors are not taught about business. We are never taught about business. And I journeyed into doing my MBA so that I understand business better. So we help you there in that mentoring to say, what is business? What is your practice? What are you supposed to have in place for your practice to go? With the funds to keep going. Yes, you are a clinician, you see patients, but what's the other side of your business? How do you position your business so that it attracts your people? Because at the end of the day, people went to go to doctors just to ask questions, but we never ask ourselves, what's the better way to provide a service for our patients? Like how any business does. BMW will always ask, how do we better this car next year so that it's bought better? We never ask those questions. So part of our mentoring is looking at those things. If you're in Soweto and you have a practice, how do you appeal as a doctor to that clientele? How do a doctor, given the HPCSA guidelines, price your service? If you're in Sandton, how are you different from a practice which is in Soweto? All those things which we've never looked into. You just open a practice and you think people are going to come and keep coming. We've never asked ourselves what makes people keep coming. What makes this doctor set apart from that doctor, besides the fact that people will get ill, but people now have a choice. There's Google. People go to Google and see what's the diagnosis. They go to a chemist. What would make people say, no, I want to go to that doctor because every time I go there, she gives me a scope of what's happening. She makes me part of the system of making a decision of my own health, as opposed to that doctor. Even when I get there, they're so cold. I want to ask questions. I'm so scared. They're just not interested. So that's what we journeying and focusing in. But as we're moving along now, we're looking more at doing mental health. Now, mental health looks at a person holistically. Mental health has to do with the way you think, your emotions, your behaviors. Now that puts health into a different perspective completely. It doesn't say you need to go to a facility to get health. There you get treatment. But it also says, how do I maintain the health that I already have? Because we never look at people that are already supposedly healthy so that they don't fall short and then end up having chronic illnesses. So that's another aspect of the forum now, where we're really doing a lot of research and a lot of education and training so that people know that what you already have could be tampered with if you don't know what you're doing, or if you are not mindful what actually makes you ill in the first place. So I could go on and on. Health and wealth is growing from strength to strength. But as you know, any organization that you're starting takes a lot of groundwork, a lot of finances, a lot of teaming up with different people to make things happen. So as much as we'd want it to be nationwide, we are still just for now here in Gauteng and trying to just, grow our roots and go to different provinces and assist doctors there, patients there, communities there. I could go on forever.
You said we. Who are you with in this health work?
I'm with other doctors. I'm with other ministers of the gospel. I'm with business people. I'm with people in IT spaces. So it's friends that I've met along the path, and I've introduced health and wealth to them. And some of them wanted to team up. Some of them wanted to sponsor this. Some of them gave me ideas on what else to do. And I've also teamed up with the medical aid, which is called Day One Health, which is also assisting on a lot of things that I hadn't even looked at. So it's a we. It's not, it takes a whole community to do a project. If everyone's voices are gonna be heard, we need a team of people. It can never be one person to run with it.
Absolutely. As you were talking and you were talking about studying and you've done your MBA, and I'm listening to you, I'm like, oh, you're such a sucker for pain.
Sometimes if you don't have anything else, because these were the times where I didn't have mentors. I felt I needed to know more, because sometimes when you breaking into a new area, especially in health, no one really understands you, and everyone's thinking, oh, you're just talking, shame, it's such a big dream, I don't know how you'll achieve it. You just need to open your own avenues, and sometimes through studying you meet the greatest of people that are already doing things, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Someone is just going to tell you, oh no, I did this in my company, even though it's not a health company, but maybe if you use it in yours, it will help you. So sometimes we feel inadequate and we try and do everything, and through doing that we learn so many things. And that's not to say maybe getting an MBA was the only way. I could have gone to a company and saw what they did, but I think access for me wasn't there yet, and I didn't have time to do that. I only had time to do this at the given point, or I felt confident in doing rather this, all paths lead you to where you're supposed to go, and we need to be, so proud and happy that God leads us in those journeys, whatever journey it is.
Great. I want you to just give, before we get into the nitty-gritties of, the topic of the day. Because we're going to do this, I want you to tell the listener that you're going to be here for the next 4 weeks. Okay, well, what we're going to talk about in the next 4 weeks. And usually our last session of the 4 weeks is open to our listeners. They can interact with you and ask questions and things like that. So just give our listeners just a brief or a summary of what we're going to talk about in the coming weeks.
Oh, the coming weeks are really going to be very, very interesting weeks. I think we've set out to educate as much as we can in different areas, And as we were discussing, I really had to think, what is it that is needed currently What is it that people are needing and maybe they're not even aware of? So part of it, of course, today is medical negligence or medical malpractice. And we'll also look at corporate wellness, but with the focus of the marketplace. And we're focusing on marketplace because there are a lot of business people that never really fully put on board with what corporate wellness is. PwC employees and Johnson & Johnson employees always have corporate wellness programs or everything running. They know what that is. But the entrepreneurs in this country, which we have multitudes, some others are trying out or starting out their business, no one really focuses on their wellness. So I felt that that is a really important part that we need to address. And then we need to look at mental health, healing, and restoration. We speak so much about mental health, but the healing part and the restoration part, we are still lagging behind, and we are lagging really behind in terms of the journeys that people have gone through to get restoration and healing, and also just understanding what your healing journey involves. Because sometimes we just think when you go to the hospital, get your medication, now you are fine. But there's more to that than healing, in especially mental health. There's more to that when it comes to even your restoration. You have to be integrated back into a community which understands, where you'll feel confident, because some of the people after a mental health diagnosis, they are not necessarily feeling as confident as someone who doesn't. There's a stigma that's there. So when we speak about healing and restoration, it's also looking at all these things and integrating people back into their communities, into their churches, into their workspaces. And the more we educate people about this, I think it will be better to live in society, and we'll have less of cases of mental health, because some of it is caused by the societies that we live in and the pressures that are around us. So yeah, it's going to be a very insightful 4 weeks, and I'm hoping that everyone's going to learn, and I'm going to learn a lot from all the engagement and interaction, because it's people that make this journey worthwhile. It's people that we are dealing with, and it's people that we need to engage as we are helping one another.
Absolutely. I heard you say healing and restoration. That doesn't sound medical at all. How?
Yeah.
It's okay, but we will take it when we get to it. I just wanted to just pose that
to
question,
highlight it,
so that the listener can actually go and think about it and say, how is a medical doctor going to help me with healing and restoration? I want them to go and just think more about it and come back for next week and the following week and the following week. Mm-hmm. It's going to be very nice. It's going to be very great sessions, very informative, and healing is going to take place. So, Dr. Sam, I want us to get into the business of the day. Today. The topic of today is medical malpractice, medical negligence. Educate us, please. Educate us. As a doctor, I thought those things are only left for lawyers, legal professionals, and how do you get into it and you're still practicing? I thought, isn't that a conflict of interest somehow, somewhere? Especially if you are working for, are you working for government? I'm sure.
No, I consulted at private hospital, and I've got my own practice. Yeah.
But still, you come to my hospital to work and help me to heal people. Accidents happen, things happen. And you are going to report me now for medical malpractice while you're working for me? How does it work?
Okay, so I think we need to just start at what is medical negligence or what is medical malpractice. So it is any kind of action that a health professional, whether doctor, a nurse, anyone working in medical or in a health facility, anyone who does an action that may harm one, or an action that is below the standard of care in that environment. And it's also the inaction. So sometimes we think doctors or nurses need to do something to us. Sometimes it's the lack of action. So for example, if you're going to go into a medical facility and you are not treated, everyone leaves you hanging, or you are not attended, that is medical negligence, because it's inaction of the standards of medical care that are supposed to be provided in that facility, whether it's public, it's private, whether it's your own practice even. So
Dr. Sam,
let
me interrupt you there. Let me just intercept you there. Medical practice, is it only when it has led to death? Or I am Boitumelo, I went for surgery and I told them that I struggled to actually wake up from this anesthetic, and I end up struggling to come back and nobody hears me because everybody's joking. I can hear everything. Everybody's chit-chatting there and joking and laughing. And I'm battling to breathe. I'm battling to come back. Nobody sees me. When I ultimately wake up and stuff like that, can I report that as medical malpractice?
Yes, you can.
It's only on when somebody's dead.
No, it's not when anyone is dead. It's not even when anyone is harmed. That's why I said it's even the lack of action. So if I don't treat you and you had a headache and you go home, that on its own is medical malpractice and medical negligence. So the two in South Africa we use interchangeably, but in the court of law, medical malpractice is now when someone has been harmed or has died. But medical negligence, sorry, I'm interfering the two. Medical malpractice is anything that you see which, no, this doctor didn't treat me well, or no, he didn't even hear what I said, or no, even the attitude I was treated with is not fine. So I think the extreme in our country, we always think we should only report when now something bad has happened or someone has died. It's not like that. Those are the extreme ends that end up in court, and we have to be paying out huge amounts of money. The smallest form of action or inaction in a hospital is malpractice, is you not being treated, is you getting there and you had a headache, no one could care, no one could give you any form of healthcare or medicine. So it doesn't need to wait to the extreme. It's all encompassed, and the extreme would be then someone who's harmed and someone who has died. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, you're making a lot of sense, definitely. Yes. I understand.
Yes.
Okay. You were still explaining. I don't know if you had something else to say, because I kind of interrupted you there.
Yes. Sorry. So, and then when it comes to medical malpractice or negligence, you see in our hospitals, public and private, there are Boitumelo principles on the walls. I know patients never really look at that. There are patients' rights on the walls. Those are guidelines for patients actually to protect you. So now if you look at those Boitumelo principles, people first, everything is there. And the patient's rights as well. It tells you need to have informed consent. Informed consent on its own is just you being told, Guti, now you're going to undergo surgery, and this is what we're going to give you, and you're going to wake up after 30 minutes, and after 30 minutes we have to come check if you're fine. Are you walking? Are you conscious? That is informing you of the process that's going to happen. In a normal day-to-day, informed consent would be you go to your doctor, you have a headache, he tells you, no, your headache is created by high blood pressure or by stress, and therefore you need to take this medication, or I'm not going to start you on medication now. Just go home, relax, drink lots of water, change your diet. Are you good? Are you happy with what I'm telling you? Or would you want an alternative that I need to give you? And these things never really happen in public and private. Doctors always just give you information. They don't even ask you. So all those written things on the walls are definitely to help you as a patient and not necessarily a doctor. We are already supposed to be knowing that I need to tell you of what I'm doing, what you have, what are the options that you have now that you have hypertension? What are the options of care? What are the options of treatment? What are the consequences if you don't take this and you take that? How many times should you come back and see me? So all those things, I think that patients or community people are the ones that need to be looking out for that, because we go to a doctor or to a clinic having diagnosed ourselves, and we're not fully aware that this doctor needs to treat you with respect and dignity, that you have a right to a second opinion. If you go to a doctor and a doctor says you have schizophrenia, you have all right to say, you know what, can I go to another facility so that another doctor sees me? All these simple things which community members and patients don't know end up making it easy for doctors to do malpractice and medical negligence, and you never know about it. So part of us educating about malpractice and negligence is to really encourage patients to look at your Boitumelo principles. Wuti, this is how you're supposed to be treated, and look at your patient's rights. What is it which is your right? You don't even need to be threatening me as your doctor saying, no, government pays you for this. No, it is your right as a citizen in this country to be treated with justice, with fairness, to have a second opinion, to be informed of what's happening. It is wrong for medical practitioners not to inform you what's happening, because we get a lot of other cases where patient says, no, the doctor didn't tell me what's happening. He just gave me this medication and said drink once a day. It shouldn't be so. The doctor should explain, I'm giving you antibiotics. These antibiotics are for 1, 2, 3, 4. You drink the course this far because it kills the virus within these days, and you'll be feeling a bit dizzy or not dizzy, whatever the case may be in that situation. So once we as the community or as patients familiarize ourselves with what our rights are when we go to a facility, we won't be beggars, and we'll really be pushing our doctors to provide a service that they're supposed to be providing in any case. So I'm both here for the patients, I'm both here for the doctors, because at the end of the day, a doctor can be a patient. So if we're not the ones fixing it, it will never be fixed. Because I heard earlier you said, but you're coming to my hospital and then next you are the one, filing a case. It's not directly like that. But when I work in a hospital, you have peers where you say, but guys, are we still following the protocols? But guys, where are the protocols? Are we seeing them? Is everything happening? What is making us slack? What can we do to help? So it's not every case where now, you'll be filing a lawsuit, but it's also to say, colleagues, we need to push up our socks when it comes here. We need to really pride ourselves in the work that we are doing. And medical negligence and malpractice is something that we might see when we're treating patients. Those doctors are also, and nurses are going through a lot. Like how I told you earlier, there's sometimes no support for a doctor. Sometimes there's no support for a nursing staff. Yes, fair enough. That's not reason to do medical negligence, but it's reason enough to want to do better. And that's why we are there to help one another. And, we need to continuously put pressure so that the demand is met. In business, when you're not supplying the demand, when BMW is no longer making a fancy car, buyers will just go to Mercedes-Benz. They know you just get left behind because of that. And it's nothing personal. So if we have the same mindset in our healthcare system, we're not even going to see this as personal. We're going to see ourselves as those that want a standard of care for our patients and for our nation. Oh, I've spoken so much. I hope, I've introduced the subject matter very well. Yeah.
No, you know what? We are learning. I'm quiet because I'm really trying to know. But I have a lot of questions in my head. Some of them silly, some of them naughty. Yes. And I'm thinking about somebody that goes to a public hospital. Right? Yeah. And there is no medication. It's a common. There is no medication, and the doctor ends up giving the patient Panado. It's happened so many times. Yeah. Where do you guys draw the line? Because before, between you saying there's no medication for you and putting your employer in kind of bad light, and you also protecting yourself to say, I am not giving you the right medication because there is no medication. Where do you draw the line in those kind of situations? I mean, it happens a lot, especially for people that work in public hospitals.
Yeah, no, of course, I know. I've worked in public hospitals. I think I've seen a culture of doctors and nurses just informing the patients, Uguti, there's no medication, right? And beyond that, I really don't see how a doctor can intervene unless, they call the next clinic to ask if they have medication. And remember, when you are there as a doctor, you also represent yourself. So you're there in a public health sector, knowing that at one point you leave and have your own private practice. So the sooner you become professional, the sooner people will respect you for that. That's just you. And I've also seen doctors complaining to whether it's the logistics or the CEO of the hospital because nothing has been received, in terms of medication. So I think it depends with each medical professional, each doctor, how they deal with it. But we shouldn't be prescribing something that we know is not going to help. Then that's a waste of time. And that we also compromising your body because your body can only stomach certain amounts of painkillers. So we can't be giving you painkillers forever, because we'll end up causing another problem in your digestive system. I know I'm not really directly answering this, but I'm giving you options of what happens and what could happen. And patients as well. Remember, part of the rights of the patients, you have the right to complain. That's your patient's right. So, and I know I've heard so many patients say, where do you complain? Who takes your complaint? In a public sector, in a clinic, in a hospital, even in private, there's supposed to be complaint boxes where you write your things. That's point number one. Point number two is complaining to the nursing sister or the doctor in charge. Point number three is CEO level, where you really write a letter. And, I always encourage people to write letters, not to complain, verbally. That could never be traced, even when it goes to higher authorities. So always make sure you write a letter. You also keep a copy of your letter. I know this is a long process, and sometimes people feel, is it worth it? And I say it is worth it in the long run. It might not help you, but it may help the next person. And that's what we need to continuously do until the system is right, So write letters of complaint. You put it in the hospital to the nursing sister. If you've got an email it to the CEO. And the next part also, even before you even go to the CEO, you can always go to the Health Professions Council. So the Health Professions Council is a body that regulates all the medical professions, every single person you see in a hospital. And patients have the right to also complain there because HPCSA exists to protect the patients and to ensure that medical professionals are doing what they're supposed to do. Now we live in an era where there's social media. Social media has helped a lot of people when you are complaining and you also report it to other places. But it shouldn't have gotten to that point. So our starting points are the ones that I've already, mentioned. Or if you know a counselor in that area, sometimes we stay in townships and counselors have a power to go and fix certain things. That's where you can also go. If you're part of a political organization, each political organization has a health body. So you can always go and complain to that person in charge of the health department or the health portfolio in your own political party. I know a lot of people have gotten help there as well. So, you use everything that you have so that at the end of the day, the system gets better. If we sit down and not complain and not do anything, it will never get better because doctors and people in charge of the hospitals will always be thinking they are doing right. Oh, hey, people don't care about their own health. So why should we? Let's give them what they know they deserve. So, yeah.
You've actually answered my question, my next question, because I was going to ask you that, all these other forums of complaining and channels of complaining are actually things that would work in suburban areas where people have got much more education. But I like what you have just said now, to say you can go to your local councillor if you don't know who is your ANC health portfolio manager, or you can just go to your councillor, even though people are always clashing with councillors, but those are structures that are supposed to help people in communities. You can just go to your councillor and say, you know what, here is my letter that I also submitted to the clinic. I need you to help me because this is going to happen to somebody else. This is going to hurt somebody else, if not me. So this also takes me to that other question that I had, to say, what then would be your follow-up actions? How do you follow up in terms of making sure that this thing gets sorted out? It might not necessarily get sorted out in your presence, but how do you make sure, as a complainant, how do you make sure that it's been dealt with? What must happen for you to know that it has been dealt with professionally?
I think you'll go back to the places where you've complained to see, have they heard your story? And remember, when they've heard your story, they need to make it in writing as well. So there's no facility that's going to say, no, we saw that complaint and we are dealing with it. Word of mouth does not work. You need to receive some form of letter to say, the nurse that you saw, we have had a meeting with them and this is what was discussed. Please come in order for you so that we mediate what has happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. So there should be some form of letter that happens. They should contact you, because in your letter you should also have your contact. They should contact you, whether telephonically as well, to engage you in the matter. So it is your responsibility. Oh, that's the sad thing again, to keep following it up. Has it been dealt with? And to see what has happened. And as you're saying, I have seen really in communities and townships that the political parties are actually doing a great job. The different parties do a great job when you've given them a complaint about a certain clinic and a certain nurse. They really try and follow it up and see what's happening. So you also just need to be the one following. And sometimes if you are the person that is sick and undergoing all these processes in the hospital, I think it's hard for you to keep following it up. So you need to either task your sister, your brother, whoever is stronger, to just keep following up your case as you continue to go to the facility or to change facilities. You are open to change facilities as well, even though it's so hard and harsh. Our medical professionals make it seem as if you're a traitor if you want to move to another clinic, which is all, it's wrong. It shouldn't be happening. But, insecurities of professionals will make them end up talking things that they're not supposed to talk. But yeah, if you're the one who's undergoing this difficulty and you're still undergoing treatment in hospital, I would really advise you to task a family member, a friend, to do it on your behalf as you try and journey through your treatment in that facility.
True that, sometimes it might be traumatic. It might be that a doctor or a nurse did not handle you properly, and, it ended up in being a very traumatic experience. So yeah, it's good, I guess, to nominate somebody else that can actually represent your interests and follow up on your behalf. I hope this is going to help a lot of people. Anything else, Dr. Sam, that you want to educate us on based on the topic, medical negligence and malpractice?
Okay, so now looking at the most extreme cases now where people have died or people have really been injured. We've seen so many cases on social media, on TV, where, for example, mothers have given birth, the child has become disabled because there was a delay between helping this woman give birth or oxygen to the kid's brain because there was no service, or cases where someone has died after a huge surgery. Now, sometimes as a normal person who's not in the healthcare profession, you never know if there was negligence. Because when this has happened, doctors will always say, we've done all we can, right? And then we easily accept it that way. So my rule of thumb is to always say, when there's some form of harm that has happened, that one is even better because you have a living species which you can assess and see if there was harm. Always go for a second opinion, whether to another hospital, whether to a GP, try and gather money in a local GP to say, this is what happened. Was it fair? Was it just? To see your case. And in the cases where death has happened, I know a lot of families don't really have money or time. When we want to bury someone, we really don't have time to say we want a postmortem. A postmortem is always available, even in a public hospital. You don't need to pay for it. But medical professions in the public health sector always make it seem as if, it's such a mission. But it is your right to ask for a postmortem just so that you know what happened to cause the death. But then again, someone would say, if they died in this hospital and in that same hospital, the doctor is doing the postmortem, of course, the doctor will rule the favor of the postmortem in the favor of, a natural death, or there was nothing they could have done. Well, this one is a personal one because the same thing happened to my brother. But fortunately for me, having been in the health facility, I fully understood there had to be some form of negligence. So negligence happens in so many ways. In my case, I'll put my case. My brother died. My brother passed away. But when he was going for the surgery, the simple things weren't done. So next of kin contact person wasn't there. Then when we asked what had happened, they say he was a risk case. But knowing a risk case, you can never do a risk case if you haven't called at least 2 different family members of this person to do the op. Because in healthcare, if someone is a risk factor, number one, he alone cannot consent for this operation. He can't. It needs to be someone else who was explained to say, this is what we're doing to your sister or brother. He's a high risk because he has 1, 2, 3, 4. So do you consent? And then they go to the next person, a different person, whether it was the wife this side, now it's the parents or the sisters. They say the same thing. Are you guys in agreement? This is the risk. The risks are this person can die. The risks are this person can be disabled. So that was never done on our case, and it was never a risk case in any case. So when my brother passed away, I did a postmortem and a totally different doctor did it for me, and it proved what I say. So what I'm saying is sometimes the events leading to the negligence are showing signs that things didn't make sense. And it can never really, you can never see it if you are not in the healthcare. That's why I'm saying always have a friend. If you know a doctor, always query, Gucci, this is what happened. My brother went through this and this is what happened. Is it normal? And then that friend or that doctor would always say, yes, this is the process of what happens before we get there. So some cases we really need to approach them, instinctively. There are people that sometimes, you'll hear that mother say, no, but there was something wrong, even though they don't know. So always trust your instinct when it comes to cases of death that might have happened in a hospital, or even where someone has been harmed. Women who've given birth, they are not doctors, but they are masters of their own bodies. Other women have given birth 3 or 4 times, so they know what's supposed to happen. Those women are the women that can easily identify for you, which this is not supposed to happen. So I'm saying this in a setting where it's a community and there's no funds. If you've been given birth and there's a mother who has children, go and ask how it happens. If there's a woman in the community who went through something that is similar to yours, go there. Use the resources that are there. You don't necessarily need to go to a doctor and pay. Some of the brilliant experts that we have are people that have just gone through the same journey. That will give you pointers, that will say, that's weird. Maybe go to this doctor then to go and ask. So it's a rule where I always encourage patients to say, always take your health seriously, because if you don't, There's no doctor or nurse that can ever take your health as seriously as you can. You are the one that's living in this body. So you are the one who needs to be asking questions. Is this normal? Is this all these questions? You are the one. And that's the best way to tackle malpractice. That's the best way to tackle negligence, because you are the one who's been living in that body, and you are the one who understands it better than, a doctor. We can do tests and see what's happening, but you'll be the one that tells us, no, I normally feel like this when it's spring, which a test cannot on its own tell us, but you have told us. So when it comes to medical negligence and malpractice, some of the things you need to have the nudge for it. You need to be the one that says, you know what, I'm going to prioritize my health. And when I go into a healthcare system or a public health system, I would have already Googled what's supposed to be happening, so that when I have questions that this doctor needs to ask, and they see I'm well aware of what's supposed to be happening. So inform yourself, educate yourself, get as much knowledge as you can. Those friends or those doctors, in townships as well, you've got old doctors that have been doctors for years. Spend time with them, ask them, so that when anything happens to you, you are able to know what's happening, what's going on. You are able to know, no, this is serious, let me run and go and search it out. So yeah, it's a journey, and we need to be serious about our own health at the end of the day.
How far back can you report medical negligence? How many years are we allowed?
Yes, when you are opening a case with an attorney, for example, attorneys always want a case which is 3 to 5 years max. So cases beyond that, you can never really file in the court of law, but you can lodge a complaint where the hospital and its management can look into the case and see if it was negligence for real, especially in the public health sector.
My scenario is I was going for an IOP, and this is an operation I was supposed to do in my first year of my MBA studies. I had a growth that was, at some point it grew so much that it protruded out of my eye.
Sure.
I could feel it when I closed my eyes. Yeah. So I was so scared that I prolonged it for the longest. I just medicated and, sleep for the long time, as much as I could. So I finished the MBA in 2018, and I booked myself in, and I was given a date, 12th of September.
Yeah. Oh, wow, 12th of September.
Yeah, is it anything significant?
It's my birthday.
Yes,
it's my birthday.
Okay. Well, from today on, I'll look at it differently, because it's actually one of those traumatic days in my life. Yeah, so I am booked, and as I'm booked for this operation, I'm expecting a phone call to say, so you're coming tomorrow, and this is what we're going to do. This is what it's going to do. Shame. This is, and it wasn't explained. And I picked up the phone and I canceled the first appointment.
Yes.
And still no explanation. And that time I'm really sick. I phoned the Eye Institute in Pretoria, and the date is like in a month or two, and these are the only guys who have the closest date,
Yes.
I was so scared, and I phoned them again, and I book again. And they said, okay, we'll come back to you with a date. And they said, no, that date that we booked you for is still available if you want to, come and do the op on that day. And I'm like, okay. And then I go, and then I go there, and I'm like, guys, I say to my friends who were dropping me off there, I'm like, you know what, I'm really scared, because these guys have not explained to me what is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm that person that wants to Google this procedure before I go. I want to see it. I want to psyche myself. I want to be ready. Yes. I don't want to be surprised. I don't want to be surprised. I want to be prepared for this thing. And I get there and I ask at the reception, is somebody going to explain to me how this thing is going to be done? Is somebody going to explain to me at any point before I go into theater? And then it's a big thing. And no, I went up the stairs, I went up the lift, I went to management. I'm like, show me where management block is, because I cannot understand how is this happening to me, and I don't know what is going to happen to me. I'm dressed up in
God.
And you know what? It was another hour of explaining and whatever. And I was given a little bag of, a gift. And that was not enough for me. When I got to theater, I was shivering like crazy. I could feel my body doing this on top of the bed, I was very scared. I was very uncomfortable. And I try and explain other conditions that I have this problem with anesthetic. I don't respond very well. Sometimes it takes longer to kick in. And when it does that, it takes longer to get out of my system. I'm trying to explain all of those things. And this is a very complicated operation whereby I need to be, put to sleep for only 30 minutes. And then I need to wake up because they need to tell me, move your eye to the left, move the eye to the right.
Yes.
I told the doctor, and the painful thing was the doctor's reaction when I told the doctor to say, I could feel everything that you did. When you put that thing and you cut, I felt it, and worst of all, I'm looking at these big screens in front of me. When they cut, the blood was all over my eye. I was looking at everything. I could not move everything. I could not move myself. And I was trying to say to myself, calm down, because this is a very delicate surgery. If I do something or I jump or anything, it could get worse. So I had to, but there was a lot in my mind. But when I came back after a few weeks and I told the doctor, I said, I explained to you and I expected you in the theater to say, are you okay? Can you feel this? Can you feel that? Can you feel that? I expected him to take me through that because I explained. Lo and behold, he says to me, you know what? In actual fact, you see this operation on my hand. It happened and I could feel everything. And there are those type of people that can feel. And I felt like, no, but this is not right. I told you. Maybe you went and you didn't know, but I told you. You should have done more tests and asked me questions because I was awake, and trying to go back for checkups, after 3 months, after the operation, I was told, we'll see you in 3 months. I'm like, 3 months? So I'm supposed to go and doctor myself at home. And then that was that. And then I was classified then as that patient that has an attitude. Up until, I went for the first checkup because the stitches, 2 of them went out by themselves as they were supposed to. 1 stitch went over the period and it was really scratching in my eye. And I went back, I phoned, I'm like, stuff is happening. This is what is happening. But you could hear the attitude, from the secretary who was booking my appointment. So I changed and I went to Pretoria, the Eye Institute. But just the attitude, and that's why I'm asking how long, does a patient have? Because I reported to the hospital. The hospital tried to talk me, calm me down, and I went to the theater. But after service as well was horrible. I have this growth on my other eye. I'm supposed to also remove it, but I ain't going there. After that experience, I couldn't sleep for months because I kept on seeing this guy, cutting. I felt the stitch, the first stitch when he was stitching it. I felt the second one. I felt the third stitch. I felt everything. And everybody was laughing at me after theater when people are eating. You're supposed to eat before you leave the hospital. I couldn't even move my arm. I couldn't move a finger because this anesthetic has not even, I haven't recovered. It took me 2 hours for this stuff to get out of my system. But I can't do this up now. I'm traumatized. That's why I'm asking. I'm asking for people who could have gone through the same experience that I have gone through, you know?
Yeah, sure. That's true.
Yeah.
That's really traumatic. And going to a hospital is scary on its own. I've never been admitted in a hospital until I had to give birth, and it was a private hospital. Ngosiami, I remember going there. I prayed so many prayers. I calmed myself down. My husband was like, baby, but you work here. What's your problem? I'm like, Sandra, it's a different story to be on the other side, because you're thinking, what if this person doesn't know? And Nami, I was asking questions. What's that? What are you putting in? And I remember when I walked in there, my husband just let everyone know, Uguti, my wife, she's a doctor, and everyone already, treats you differently, which shouldn't be the case. Any person that walks in there should be treated with respect and differently as an important person, because you can never get life back. You can never. You harm someone, you can never really fully fix it. And the eye is very delicate. I mean, you can't replace an eye. It's gone. It's gone. And sometimes, the experiences we go through are very traumatic. And we need to, complain. And sometimes the most difficult part of the medical care system, especially private, is being treated by a white doctor. And you're going to think this is going to be a better journey. Then they are struggling with demons of seeing a black person being in this facility. That's number one. Vice versa, sometimes you're a black doctor, you're treating a white patient, they are the ones giving you an attitude. I mean, I've had those where they'll be asking, so which school did you go to? What was your grade average, before you can even touch them? So beyond the system, I'm telling you, you'll get so traumatized. That's why you'll find some black doctors with low self-esteem, especially working in private sector, and they're treating white people. It's the things you hear. So beyond the system, there's so many other fights that are being fought, and so many other struggles that we are fighting in our minds and in our hearts. And so if we don't report these things, we'll never give people an opportunity to do introspection. So if I'm a racist black doctor, I'll never have a time to do introspection if no one reports me. I'll keep going and treating a certain race bad, and vice versa. In all cases, if you're a woman and I've had a bad experience with a woman and a male doctor, I'll never get introspection. I'll never do introspection. And part of the great journey of any profession is introspecting yourself. It's really not about people saying you're a bad. It's you now looking into, have I done the best that I was supposed to do, or have I not? And there are a lot of people who've had bad experiences in the healthcare system that never want to go back. And some of them, they end up being really sick, and they need the healthcare, and they're like, I'd rather die at home. So we don't want to create a healthcare system where people are fearful to go to. It's supposed to be a place where you feel you're going to find a solution. But because of malpractice and negligence, it has become a place where people don't want to go because they're thinking they are going there to die, So we need to really start tackling this through conversations, through putting people to take responsibility as professionals to say, this is not what I'm going to accept. But yeah, it's a long story and it cannot be changed overnight. We need to continuously be doing actions every day to change this system,
Yeah. This has been very educational. This has been very, very informative. Thank you so much, Doc, for coming and sharing your experiences, your lessons, and most importantly, professional advice that you have given us. I hope that our listeners will be more responsible, will be more assertive when they go to doctors, and read those Boitumelo principles and the patient's right on the walls, and really evaluate all the doctors that would be seeing them, in future. And I hope that life is not going to be the same. People are going to change the way they do things, and they're going to hold everybody responsible. They're also going to be responsible for their own lives, because if something is happening to you, you are responsible to report it. It's nobody else's responsibility but yours to report it, and to make sure that that doctor gets that opportunity to reflect and do better as a doctor. Otherwise, they're going to continue to harm other people, thinking that there's nothing wrong that they're doing, or it's an acceptable practice where they are. It's upon us to actually report these kind of things. Thank you so much, Doc. Just your closing. We just closing the month of August, which has been a very beautiful Women's Month. I've had coaches on my show whom I have given the platform to, just as an appreciation of other women. We had two coaches, Coach Sheila Baloi, as well as Coach Kensani Chauke, whom I've given the platform to be the hosts of the show. So I hope that I have empowered and planted a seed. Maybe one day there will be passionate radio presenters, or they will be giving somebody tips on how to prepare, for a media interview. But your word of encouragement to the women, to South Africa, as we're still going through this pandemic, and with so much confusion when we're talking about the pandemic and the vaccination and the medication and the what. Just a word of motivation, Doc.
Yes. To the women out there, women form a great part of our society. They are mothers, they are nurturers, they are carers. And I think to encourage you today is just to say you are doing a great job. But to do an even better job is to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others. Because others need you healthy, they need you well, they need you sane, they need you stronger and strengthened so that you can serve them better. So keep going, and most importantly, always remember you also matter, and you need to be at the forefront of the goals that you're making. You need to be a priority to yourself before anyone else can make you a priority. So keep going, be strong, be resilient, and conquer.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So far, where can people reach you if people want to ask you questions, if people want to send you comments, compliments? Where do people find you?
Compliments. Okay, you can find me WhatsApp work line 071 195 9501. And we have a website, www.healthwealthforum.com. You can find us there, www.healthwealthforum.com. You can find us there, and I'll share the link also with Boitumelo, so that if you didn't get it, you just go directly to the website link or my WhatsApp line where you can contact me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Doc. Have a lovely evening, and please apologize on our behalf to the family, since we've taken you 20 minutes more. It should be dinner time now. But enjoy yourself, enjoy family until we meet again next week. Thank you so much. If you've just joined us, we will meet again next week. And to all South Africans, continue to take care of yourself. Continue to observe COVID-19 lockdown regulations. Continue to sanitize your hands and steam yourself after you've been out. If you feel sick, please inform your family and keep away from them. That's the only way we're going to save one another and save our family members. If you know that you have been exposed, please tell the next person, the other person that you were with, that you are not feeling well. And continue to eat well, continue to drink water, lots and lots of water, and be healthy. Continue to also take care of your spirituality. Prayer, I strongly believe that prayer is the answer to many, many problems that we have. We will be talking mental health, and next week we will also be talking corporate wellness. We'll be talking wellness together with Dr. Sam. So do not miss out on the next 3 to 4 weeks. Send your questions either to my WhatsApp 0814502258, or send your questions, comments, compliments to my Facebook page, Boitumelo Tolakai. I've got Winnie Mandela's raised fist picture there on my profile. That's Boitumelo Tolakai on Facebook, at Boy279 on Instagram. Send me your DMs, send me your questions, your compliments, your song of the week. Until we meet again next week, I love you so much. Bye.